Hey everyone, Two Angry Frogs here, and Blizzard has given us the first look at Season 1 of Mythic Plus and the War Within. There are some interesting changes coming, and a few new affixes that seem to move in the right direction, and at the same time maybe repeat some of the past decisions that players have taken issue with. So what changes do we have in store, and are they lining up with player desires for Mythic Plus? Let's take a look. But before we begin, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, so you always know what we're up to next. Now, let's get into it. So what do we know about the overall updates for Season 1? Many of the changes made for Dragonflight Season 4 will stay in place, and I think this is a good move. For me, Season 4 was overall more enjoyable, and the tuning of the dungeons felt pretty good. And affixes being added later in the Keystone level was definitely a plus. So for War Within Season 1, we know that normal dungeons will continue to be the expansion dungeons. Heroic dungeons will now be aligned with the seasonal dungeon pool. I think this is a great move that enables players to move from heroic to mythic and see the same dungeons. Mythic 0, which is being termed just Mythic now, will be aligned with the seasonal dungeon pool, but interestingly will not be available until Season 1 kicks off on September 10th. A great change for players is that Mythic will now be on a daily lockout instead of weekly, so you can pick up gear from Mythic bosses every day. For Mythic Plus, unfortunately, affixes have taken a step back. They will now be introduced earlier with Fortified Tyrannical at what has always been Mythic Plus 2, but now the first set of affixes is at Mythic Plus 4, and the second set at Mythic Plus 7. For Dragonflight Season 4, we had the first set at plus 5 and the second set at plus 10. So this basically takes us back to where we were before the Season 4 changes, which I think heads in the wrong direction of attempting to make Mythic Plus more accessible to more players. So what is the dungeon pool for Season 1? It will, like in past seasons, include 4 War Within dungeons and 4 prior expansion dungeons. The 4 War Within dungeons will be the Stone Vault, the Dawnbreaker, Arakara, City of Echoes, and City of Threads. The remaining 4 will be Grim Batal from Cataclysm, the Necrotic Wake and Mists of Tyrannus Scythe from Shadowlands, and Siege of Borealis from Battle of Azeroth. Not the Sharks again. I despised it when it was current content. We will have 4 new passive affixes for War Within Season 1, and these are already creating a lot of dismay. These include Reckless, where non-boss enemies without mana ignore 20% armor with their attacks, but their armor is reduced by 30% and they take 10% increased arcane damage. Then we have Thorned, where non-boss enemies without mana inflict physical damage to their attackers when attacked, but take 10% increased holy and shadow damage. Attuned, non-boss enemies with mana inflict 20% increased damage, but take 10% increased nature damage, and 30% increased damage from bleed effects. And then finally, Focused, non-boss enemies with mana have 30% increased haste, but take 10% increased frost and fire damage. So, why all the consternation? As explained by Blizzard, these effects should feel like a bonus, offering an advantage for different damage profiles each week without being essential to complete a dungeon. And therein lies the issue. Different damage profiles each week. Let's take Thorned as an example. As a Beast Mastery Hunter main, I bring nothing additional for weeks that have the Thorned affix. We can see that Blizzard intends it without being essential to complete a dungeon. But come on guys, we all know how large swaths of the player base will treat this, as history has shown time and time again. They will follow what the top players are doing, and meta comps will emerge for each passive affix, and this will exclude certain specs during certain weeks. However, I think there are some potential positives here. We may be able to avoid the seasons that emerge with a single dominant comp that permeates the entire Mythic Plus landscape, which could open certain weeks for certain specs unlike before. This could also mix up how we play our specs. For example, on attuned weeks, maybe us Beast Mastery Hunters put more talent points into our bleed talents. So with the addition of the passive affixes, we will also see a number of affixes removed from the rotation. These include Afflicted, Incorporeal, Entangling, Storming, and Volcanic. And finally, at Mythic Plus 7, we have even more consternation. The following affixes will be active: Raging, Bolstering, Bursting, and Sanguine. And what players are taking issue with here is the fact that Blizzard has left two of the worst affixes in and removed what some consider some of the easier ones. So I think overall so far, we have a mix of positives and negatives. As far as the new passive affixes, I think the jury is definitely out on these until we're able to test them and really see the impact. Will these changes have a positive impact or a negative impact on the number of players getting into Mythic Plus? We'll need to see the community feedback and what additional changes Blizzard are willing to make. But we'll be back prior to Season 1 to make sure you have all the latest and know what to expect as we start down this next Mythic Plus journey. Let us know what you think down below in the comments, and don't forget to hit the join button to become a member today for custom emotes, badges, and more. And everyone, have a great day.